Your worship.
Great, thank you. Great, council, I'd like to call this regular council meeting of May 28th, 2024 to order with adoption of the agenda. Councilor Orlando, Councilor Lucial, all in favor? Motion's carried. Adoption of the minutes of the special council meeting of May 9th, 2024. Councilor Cherry, Councilor Devlin, all in favor? Motion's carried. And adoption of the regular council minutes of May 14th, 2024. Councilor Devlin, Councilor Orlando, all in favor? Motion's carried. Any business arising from the special council meeting of May 9th? Seeing none, any business arising from the regular council meeting of May 14th? Seeing none, I'll move on to announcements from the mayor. Just want to say that Woodenhead washrooms are now up and running. They were opened a week and a half ago. And want to thank the staff, Mr. Gibbs and Mr. Beggs, for spearheading and stick handling that whole project. Appreciate it. Good to see it open. We had it open all of 15 seconds before the first tourists were flooding the doors, getting in there. So appreciate that. And also we are still asking for people to follow up with FireSmart if they're interested in having their property assessed for FireSmart. That service is available. You can use an email, firesmart@revelstoke.ca, or call the non-emergency number at the fire hall and be able to get set up for that. All right, we're going to move on to delegations and presentations. We have the Revelstoke Cycling Association here to do their presentation. Gentlemen, if you'd come forward. Alex, thanks.
Okay, great. Well, I'm Alex Cooper. I'm the Executive Director of the Revelstoke Cycling Association.
I'm Steve Mulcahy. I'm the Vice President and Secretary of the Revelstoke Cycling Association.
Yeah, and we're just here to kind of give you an update on what we've been up to the last few years. We haven't come in front of this current council, which is a lot of new members, so we thought it'd be a good idea to just let you know what we've been doing and where we're going with the cycling club these days. So thank you for having us. First up, I sent you our kind of mission, vision, values, purpose. I won't go over it here, but just, one thing to let you know is, our focus is, we're mostly a mountain bike organization focused on managing and developing our trail networks around Revelstoke, but we also, try to branch out and do more events, for the cycling community, advocate for cyclists. We hosted the bike swap as part of Refest on Sunday, and, we're doing a bike packing event, potentially getting involved in gravel rides, stuff like that. So we're trying to branch out and become more of do more just for the cycling community as a whole, but I'd say mountain biking is definitely our main focus. So it's our 30th anniversary this year. May 4th, 1994 was the day that we were, founded as a nonprofit society in BC, and we're pretty proud to see where we've come since then. We had 903 members last year. We've got tons of followers on our social media. We manage over 100 kilometers of trails across 4 networks. So that's on McPherson, Boulder Mountain, Frisbee Ridge, and then on Mount Mackenzie, which is called Sunnyside. We're governed by an 11-person board of directors. And I think one big change over the last, probably since we last talked to you, is we've grown and become more professional. We've got an executive director now, just to help manage affairs. And then we've also, our trail crew is four people right now. 3 of those will be on for the whole 6-month season, and they're all full-time, 40 hours a week, paid employees. And I think we pay pretty much above or very close to a living wage, depending on their experience. We host a number of events there that you can see. So our Fiver Race Series, Big Nights are the volunteer maintenance events. The Revelstoke Women's Enduro is our big one that brings, I think it's going to be 175 women racers to town for an event in September. We do our annual poker ride. As I mentioned, we do the bike swap, and we've got a few other things in the planning stages, but nothing I should announce right now. And then we do a youth ride for grade 6 and 7 group rides that we mostly fund. We got a bit of grants from credit union for it, but Shred Hers is an all-girls ride for grade 6, 7 girls, and then we started a co-ed ride this year, and I think both have had 20 plus cyclists out for both of them, so it's great to see that. And then I guess we're a voice for cyclists in Revelstoke, and you will have coming your way a letter about the 4th Street bike lane proposals that we've written, and it just hasn't, we figured we'd send it after this, but we're trying to get more, be a bit more of an advocate for cycling infrastructure in town. So I'm going to pass it on to Stephen here, who will just do a review of our main operations.
Yeah, so as Alex spoke to, we obviously have a big breadth of things that we're responsible in terms of the cycling community in Revelstoke, but trail maintenance is still our primary focus. We're seeing an increase in our membership. Last year was the most number of members we've ever had, but we're also seeing an increase in trail use from people obviously visiting from outside of town as our trails are better known, and we bring more tourists to town. So the trail crew this year actually has a $164,000 budget. That mostly pays for our 3-person full-time trail crew through the entire summer. Actually, all 3 members are returning staff this year, which is also a great sign that it's a positive work environment, and it's also great for us in terms of their knowledge and them becoming more familiar with our trail network and able to maintain it better. We added a 4th person this spring for the first time ever. Spring is maintenance heavy as we get the trail ready for the users. And then also in terms of making that crew much more efficient and effective this year, we replaced our aging truck, and we secured a grant to purchase e-bikes for the whole trail crew. Those e-bikes have actually exceeded expectations in terms of how much easier it is for our trail crew to move through the network and complete work on any given day. They also have new tools as well, which they're very happy about. In addition to our paid trail crew, we also run at least 8 volunteer dig nights, dig days through the year for our membership to get out on the trails and put some of their time into ensuring that they remain at a high quality. We're expanding some of those dig nights to dig days this year. Traditionally, we're always on a Tuesday night, but we're running more on weekends to make it more accessible to our membership. Alongside that maintenance, we're also looking to expand our trail network. So we completed a really large project last year with the first phase of our Boulder Climb Trail. That's going to significantly improve the experience of mountain biking on Boulder Mountain. It means people no longer have to share the Forest Service Road with gravel trucks, but instead can have a lovely ride up through the forest. So phase 1 was built last summer. We actually have our opening grand reveal party on June the 9th, which of course you're all welcome to come and attend. But we plan to build phase 2 this year, which moves higher up Boulder Mountain, and then we're hoping to expand and finish the trail with phase 3 next year, pending securing of grant funding. We're also busy looking to expand our trail network for the future, again, to accommodate more members, more riders. So we have an application in with Sites Trails in BC for more trails on Sunnyside. They sit within the footprint of Sunnyside. We're just adding more trails in that footprint. And then we're also in the planning stages for an expansion of our trail network on Boulder to take advantage of the climb trail, and then also some more trails on McPherson, with McPherson being our most popular area of our network. This is our membership. I'll talk through the numbers a little bit more.
Yeah, I think this slide just shows how much our membership has grown. Since 2017, from 526, we had 903 last year. That big bump in 2019 was from hosting, I forget what it was called, BC Enduro Series back then. So we required all racers over 200 to become members that year, and which was a great way to get racers who are coming to town to contribute to the trail. So that we saw the blip there. We also had enforced the same thing last year so that's why we definitely give us a good boost membership in 2023. So this year, I think we're getting close to 500 members so far, and we're at that time of year where a lot of people are signing up, and we're hoping to get to, I think, like over 800 this year is our goal. So we'll see how that lines up. But I think we have great. I think that number of members makes us one of the biggest recreation clubs in town, probably just after the Nordic Club and the snowmobile club. So, we have great support there, and I think we provide great value by providing 100 kilometers of trails for members to ride, and it's a great amenity for the community. Talk a little bit about finances. So this is just a revenue chart. Looking at it, membership revenue is kind of, you can't really tell, but it's a little bit of an upward trend. Sponsorship nearly doubled last year. We introduced a trail adoption program so businesses could sponsor a trail, and that was really successful and pretty much doubled our revenue. I think we brought in about $25,000 with that, and that's all part of our goal of generating new revenue streams to become more financially sustainable and less reliant on grants. So that was a big thing. And then you'll see we had a really good year for grants last year. A big part of that was the grants we got for the Boulder Climb Trail, which we received $44,000 from the Resort Municipality Fund for phase 1. And then for phase 2, we got grants from the Provincial Destination Development Fund, and then also this Columbia Basin Trust trail program. So that was $60,000 for phase 2. So we're actually pretty thankful phase 2 should be fully grant funded. So that's like the big, huge jump in revenue last year is largely due to those grants for the Climb Trail. And then these are our expenses, which you could see also soared, which is due to the Climb Trail as well. One thing I didn't include here, I forgot to include a slide about our 2024 budget. And just to review some numbers, what we want to let you guys know is, we're still reliant on grants. Like I think our budget for 2024 operational budget, sorry, I flipped the wrong way, is roughly $191,000. So that's $106,000 on maintenance, and then $62,000 on other operations. And then there's some other expenses related to events and whatnot that get in there. In terms of revenues, not including grants, between membership, sponsorship, fundraising, and events, we make $114,000. So we sit at about a $77,000 operational deficit, which we need to make up by securing grants for trail maintenance every year. So last 4 or 5 years, I think we've been quite successful at that. But as you can imagine, going to every year with a $77,000 operational deficit is not, without knowing what grants you might get or what might exist in the future, is not an ideal situation to be in. So that's probably the most stressful aspect of our finances. Fortunately, we have done well the last few years. So we've been able to put money aside. And this year, we are running a deficit, but we have enough reserve funds from the past that we're able to cover our deficit this year. And that's how also we were able to afford a new truck, well, a used truck, and help also pay our share of the e-bikes. So we had the money saved up so we can put into those capital expenses. But definitely, I think the key thing is if we didn't have those grants, we basically have to cut our payroll in half. So that's, dropping down to 2 maintenance people and probably like maybe a half or even less time for an executive director role. So I mentioned a few challenges. Climate change is definitely one. With the long, hot, dry summers, our trails just get really dusty and blown out. They're a lot harder to maintain. Wildfire smoke is an issue just for our trail crew working outdoors, and also people out going riding their bikes. Trail use is up by about 25% over COVID. So that's a lot more people on our trails, and our trails are open to e-bikes. I think it's great. Like we see a lot of people on e-bikes who otherwise probably wouldn't be out on the trail. So that's great. But, there are other cases where people are on e-bikes and they're just covering a lot more ground and those bikes are heavier. So they definitely have an impact. Land use issues are a challenge. It's part of the reason we, wanted to hire an executive director is to help us navigate more complex land use challenges and trail application processes. So as I mentioned, habitat protection's a high government priority, First Nations reconciliation. And that basically just makes it, as trail use goes up, it's harder to meet the demand for more trails. Especially I find our trail networks were established quite a long time ago, like 20 years ago. And so we have the Boulder area, which is very steep downhill trails. And we have the McPherson area, which is more 2-way cross-country trails, but the more modern style of riding is somewhere in between that. And those more modern trails are more sustainable and kind of what riders are looking for these days, but it's hard to meet that with more complex applications logging, fur beetle is everywhere, as you might be aware, and our trails are always under threat of being logged, and we try to work as best as we can with the logging companies to preserve our trails, or at least make sure that when they are logged, the impact is as minimal as possible. And then, as mentioned, reliable funding. So yeah, we still rely on grants for a good chunk of our budget. $77,000 is what we need. Yeah, and I guess one thing I'll throw out there, we're very grateful for getting funding through the RMI and especially the Economic Opportunity Fund the last few years. I think you guys, from what I saw, approved 30,000 this year, which we're extremely grateful for, and that'll basically plug a good chunk of our deficit. We've received that fund for the last 3 years, and it'd kind of nice if we could maybe not have to apply for it every year. So just putting it out there. Yeah, and then we just want to thank all our sponsors. I think just showing the slide demonstrates the big support we have from the business community in town. So we get about 50,000 in revenue from our sponsors. And then, of course, thank you to all the granting organizations, including the City of Revelstoke, through the Economic Opportunity Fund and the Resort Municipality Fund, as well as CBT, CSRD, the province, Tourism Revelstoke, and the Credit Union. So that's all.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate your presentation and what you do. So just one question for me, and then I'll go around the table. So you've got 100 kilometers of trails. Are all of the trails accessible for e-bikes, or just a portion thereof?
No, all of them are. Frisbee Ridge will be open to e-bikes this year. So that was the only trail that had been closed in the past. And this year we did a member survey in 2022. And I think 2/3 of members were in favor. So we put the request into Recreation Sites and Trails BC, and they approved opening it to e-bikes. So awesome. Yeah, July 15th, people can get up there on their e-bikes and enjoy the Alpine.
That's awesome. Great. Well, I recently purchased one, and so I'm excited for that.
Great.
So thank you. Council, any questions or comments for these gentlemen from the Cycling Association? Councilor Lucille and Councilor Lingo.
Thank you, Mayor Schultz. Thank you guys for the presentation. It's great to see all the things you guys do for the community. With your trail adoption program, what are the requirements, and do you guys have all of your trails adopted, or are you guys still looking for more sponsors?
Yeah, so the way we set up the trail adoption program was as a way to upgrade for existing sponsors to upgrade. So we have a green, blue, black level and double black levels of sponsors. So basically, if you're at one of those levels or an event sponsor, you could then also sponsor a trail. The reason we set it up that way is we didn't want our existing sponsors to just shift their money elsewhere. We were trying to boost our revenue. So I think the fact that we, were able to double our sponsorship revenue shows it was very successful. And yes, there are quite a few trails left to sponsor. We had some that were sponsored last year that aren't this year, and that kind of changes. So there's definitely other options, and people can get in touch with me if they're interested.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Lynn.
Your worship, thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really do appreciate it and all the things you do. I did want to follow up on a question. You mentioned you were going to send a letter regarding the 4th Street project there. Just a bit of an update. It has been at the Public Infrastructure Committee meeting a couple times, and those are not on YouTube. So most recently there were recommendations going forward. So I just wanted to make you aware of that it changed from the paperwork. I know there were several representatives in a presentation from people, commuting cycling advocates, including Bike to Work Week organizers. So I guess I wanted to say, sort of time is of the essence, since planning will be happening this summer, likely, hopefully for implementation next spring. So I was just hoping, just reaching out to say, feel free to contact staff directly or council just to move that along, since time is of the essence. And I just was wondering what your feedback was.
Just in general, it's to basically let's see some action as opposed to planning. And I think, we're supportive of bike lanes on 4th Street and active transportation networks. But one thing we noticed, there was plans in the transportation master plan that were approved, and then this plan came forward, which is a bit different. And so, it'd just be great to actually see some more work starting to be done on that, as, instead of more plans. It's, it's been talked about I've been in town 15 years, so probably at least 10 of those or more. Yeah.
Just by way of quick follow-up, thank you, and definitely everyone's urgency to see it going. It is a bike lane project as well as a traffic calming project for the residents of the neighborhood and everyone in there. So, and certainly there was changes to what was proposed in the report, more due to advocacy from cycle advocates looking to it's precisely what you said, the transportation master plan, look at the data informed studies done there and take a look at, needs and everything to, so there's some route changes, and I'm sure staff can fill you in on what was done. And if you have comment, now's the time to let them know.
We'll be sending that in, probably, I'll send it in when I get back to the office, so
Excellent.
Great. All right. Any other comments or questions? Any final words, Shelma?
No, just say I hope we can see you at the Boulder Climb Trail opening party on Sunday, July 9th. June 9th. I keep saying July, it's June 9th, Sunday, June 9th. Yeah, we're expecting, we'll have all our local bike shops there. We also have several representatives from, I think, the Shuswap Nation Tribal Council, as well as the Shuswap Indian Band and Nisconwith Band will be here to take part. So it's going to be a great, great network building opportunity for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Shelma.
Thank you very much.
All right, we are going to move on to recommendations from Committee of the Whole. The Heritage Management Plan. So, Ms. Hartland, do you have anything that you would like to present or state?
Your Worship, there's no presentation today. Presentation that was at the Committee of the Whole. But I do have some comments from the chair of the Heritage Advisory Commission, Lauren Locke-Fontaine. The commission wanted to be here. They are not able to make a meeting today. But I just wanted to note her comments to council.
Sure.
So the Heritage Advisory Commission is grateful and thankful to Denise Cook, the planning staff, the Oklahoma, our Indigenous liaison, and the community for the great work on this important document for the present and future of heritage management in the city of Revelstoke. The Heritage Management Plan presented to you today will be an undeniable asset and an important tool for Revelstoke to preserve its heritage and even more. The commission recommends approval of the Heritage Management Plan to be held today. So that's from the commission as a whole.
Great.
So I just wanted to thank them for their support on this. We've met several times to bring the plan to fruition, and then also Dale Pullman, who's here today with us, and planning staff, as well as council representative, Councilor Sherry. So if council has any questions, just let me know.
All right, good. All right, council, is there someone who would like to put this motion on the table for me? Councilor Cherry.
I move that Heritage Management Plan prepared by Denise Cook Design dated May 16th, 2024 be approved, and that a spending initiative to implement the Heritage Management Plan be included for council consideration in the 2025 budget as part of the long-term financial plan.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councilor Lusal. Any further discussion on this motion or questions for Ms. Hartman? Seeing none, we have discussed this in Committee of the Whole. I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to Finance Committee recommendations, grant and aid. Someone want to put that motion on the table for me, please? Councilor Devlin?
Move that the 2024 grant and aid application from Community Connections, the grant of $1,000 of in-kind benefits for bus tickets. And that the late 2024 grant and aid applications for Community Response Network be rejected.
Okay. You okay with doing those two together? You want to separate?
Separate would be better in case
Okay.
you.
I will retract the and.
Okay. Seconder for the first motion for the bus tickets, Councilor Palmer. Thank you. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all is in favor? Motion's carried unanimously. Second motion, please, Councilor
I
Devlin.
move that the late 2024 grant and aid applications for Community Response Network be rejected.
Seconder for the motion, Councilor Stapenhurst. Any discussion on this motion? Councilor Orlando.
Your worship, I reached out to the CRM people just to let them know the reasons for the rejection, and that it was late application that made it hard to budget, and the request was for something that a service we don't really provide or have a funding schedule for. Usually there are grant and aid requests for things like free room rentals, that kind of thing. It's not necessary. What was requested is not something we actually provide as a service.
Thanks for that. Any further comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried unanimously. All right, moving on to 9A bylaws. Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2380, Bill 44 updates. Mr. Simon, any presentation or comments prior to us adopting?
Through your worship to council, no formal presentation from staff here to answer any questions that you may have about this, but should council adopt the bylaw today, we will be completing final reporting to the Ministry of Housing to inform them that we have complied with the requirements under Bill 44 within the specified time period. So we'll leave it with council.
Thank you. All right, Councilor, someone want to put this on? Councilor Lucille?
I move that the zoning amendment bylaw number 2380 be adopted.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councilor Cherry. Any further comments or questions regarding adopting the zoning amendment bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Simon. Moving on to water regulations. Someone want to put this motion on, or Mr. Black, do you want to speak to it? First,
Your worship, I would be pleased that to introduce Miss Emily.
Miss Lindsay.
Presenting today on the work that she has done on updating our water regulations.
I'm struggling with this last one. I don't have a formal presentation, but I just thought I would put the proposed table up on screen so you can all see it while I just run through what we've got here. So last year, as council all will remember, I'm sure we moved to stage 2 water restrictions for the first time. This was, I guess, more of a reactive move, and we therefore moved from kind of business as usual water restrictions that we operate all year round to a full restriction of lawn sprinkling and watering. So at the direction of council this year, we have moved forward with trying to find a more proactive and clear approach to setting up water restrictions as we move into the summer and potential drought conditions that we might come across again. So there's kind of two components that I'm going to speak to here. One is this water usage restriction table that I've pulled together. And the second will be about a small wording amendment to the bylaw that will support this. So in front of you, you've got the water usage restriction table. The idea with this is it sets out a more clear and concise approach for residents of Revelstoke prior to any of these restrictions being put in place, so they can be aware of what might be coming. And then stages can be implemented as required as we move through the summer. So our stage 1 in green, that's our baseline stage that we typically operate under all year round. What we went to last year, you'd be more looking at that stage 4 in red. So what I've tried to do here is provide a stage 2 and 3 to make that more progressive. And it doesn't have to be such a quick and drastic implementation. So that will hopefully allow us to have, I guess, more give and take with the public in terms of what is allowed, but versus what we need in order to make sure our distribution and our treatment plant is not running over capacity. So to speak to the bylaw then, what I'm proposing as our baseline of stage 1. Currently, we operate on an odds versus evens method where odd addresses water on odd days and even addresses water on even days. I'm proposing a slight change to this where each address bracket will operate 3 days a week. So odd numbered addresses will be Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and even numbered addresses will be Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Just allowing a more even and linear approach to watering restrictions. And then that also makes Monday available for any operations needs that are there for public works with the distribution and the treatment system. From there, it then also allows us to have a more linear approach to reducing those days down if required as we move through stages. I think I'll leave it there with overview, but any questions?
All right, Councillor Palmer, you had your hand up. Did you want to put the motion on the table, or did you have a question before Ms. Lindsay started?
Yeah, I could put the motion on the table, Mayor Souls. My preference is for first and second reading first on this, and I'd be prepared to put the motion as written, but only for first and second reading.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion, Councillor Lucio? Any
then I'll-
further discussion? Would you like to weigh in on that now, Councillor Palmer?
Yes. I'm very pleased with the work that staff did and trying to find some solutions. It was disruptive. I've had some dialogue with some people that have concerns about potential confusion on the odd and even. And the motivation for just having first and second reading, what I would like to see after first and second reading is that either formally or informally that staff be instructed to do a little bit of advertising so we can get some feedback just in case there's anything that may potentially need to be tweaked. So that's the motivation of the first and second reading. And just a little bit of background, this did come to the Public Infrastructure Committee earlier this month, but there hasn't really been an opportunity for a broader public consumption. So that's my motivation, and certainly would be happy to hear from what others have to say. Thanks.
Good, thank you. Any other comments from council? Councillor Lana.
Your Worship, just some clarifying questions. I did see this at committee, so I have been through this. But I think just for helpful in people's understanding of the changes that are coming forward. Just one question that always comes up, and this has always comes up, and this was before this change. It was one of the regulations we had is morning time restrictions for watering 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. here. And I was wondering, in general, my understanding is the rationale for that is that because that's when it is enforceable for staff. Is that correct? Because the feedback I get every year is that that's not the best time to be watering. You should be watering in the evening, that kind of stuff. So I was just wondering about that.
Ms. Lindsay, do you want to weigh in? Mr. Black's standing behind you that's going to support you if you want.
Your Worship, to all of council, the reasoning in addition to enforcement is that the evenings is when we get to refill all of our reservoirs as the days go on. And so typically we're seeing 30 to 40% of our reservoir capacity needing to be refilled in the evenings. And so it's really a base operational consideration for this, so that we ensure that we have adequate water supply for both firefighting and domestic uses during the days. And that at night we have very low consumption, as you can understand why, and we can operate our plant at a pretty flat level, which then also increases the lifespan of our filters, which we have fortunately very good water coming out of Greeley, and we're getting, rather than the 8 years of filter life, we're getting around 15. So that reduces our operational costs in long term also.
If I can add to that, it was an item that I did bring up with both bylaw and public works operations, just to revisit and make sure that was still applicable, and they were both very keen to see that time window remain the same.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Any other comments, Councillor Cherry?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just to piggyback off that through the chair, can you remind us how much these filters cost?
Through Your Worship, to all council, we replaced them 2 years ago, and I believe the number was $800,000
Per filter?
for the whole system.
It's great that we're getting extra years out of that.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Lana.
Your Worship, just a comment. I see that in the staff report, it talks about a communication plan. I think this is a type of project or city initiative that affects almost everybody. So I just want to stress the importance of making sure everyone is aware as we go forward. It's a great presentation here. It seems pretty clear to me about what it is, but I think the challenge is just, hitting everyone, making sure they all know about it. So.
Thank you. Great. So no other comments. I'll call the question on this motion. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried. Councillor Palmer, you talked about some sort of communication plan regarding this. Do you want to discuss that briefly?
Thank you, Mayor Souls. And I guess just further to what Councillor Delando is saying, whether I could put something formal that the staff be instructed to communicate to the public as broadly as possible the plans and means for feedback, if you wish, something like that.
Okay. Seconder for the motion. Councillor Devlin. Any further discussion on that motion or clarification needed by Ms. Lindsay? Clarification. Is it clear to you what we need to do as far as letting people know these are the new restrictions, how we go out, and they can weigh in if they have concerns? Is that something doable for you?
Yep. Yes, I've been working with Francesca, our communications coordinator, to effectively communicate this. I guess if council were to make changes, we can shuffle that somewhat to communicate that out prior and make it available for comment.
Sure. Councillor Palmer, follow up?
Yeah, thank you. And I guess just further to that, be leaving to staff, when the appropriate time for bringing it back for third reading and, a summary of the comments or where we go. So hopefully it sort of goes through as it is. However, I think we do need to listen to the public and if necessary, do a bit of tweaking. But thank you very much. And thanks to staff for bringing this forward. Very appreciated.
Yeah. Councillor Chair.
Yeah, let's see, I just have a quick question for clarification, as I feel that this information is kind of imperative on making this decision. Through the chair, currently on the Revelstoke Weekly Water Usage, April 1st to September 8th. Right now, we will be on week 8. In comparison, I'm wondering how we compare this year versus last year's to see if we're already hitting our weekly well total like we were last year. And the reason for this question is making sure that we're able to time this bylaw coming forward, this change, and still be proactive, potentially dry summer versus losing, another, say, month or two.
I don't know numbers off the top of my head. I have to say to you.
Through your worship to all of council, currently we are not utilizing the golf course wells at all because of the amount of precipitation that we've seen in this one. The chart is really telling from last year when we did go from the stage 1 to limited, and obviously reducing the amount of water that comes out of the wells is critical from a cost perspective also. So once the weather starts turning, which should be relatively soon, this program should be in front of council for adoption in that time. So thankfully, we've got some wet weather and it's keeping the consumption of water down at this time and the minimization of irrigation going on. So we'll kind of get to it as quickly as we can. I answer?
Yeah, that's good. That's good. We just want to make sure it wasn't imperative that this be passed today before what we're talking about slowing down the process.
And if we can get the communication out quickly and saying this is what our plans are, this is the bylaw going forward, and either next council meeting or the council meeting following, we get this coming back where we can actually get it passed. I think that would be appropriate. I know I'm making pushing things, but if we can do that, then that'll be good. And the first sign of Mr. Pendergast coming into my office saying that we get this passed, it'll be on council the next day, I'm sure. Thank you, Ms. Lindsay, I appreciate it. I'm gonna call the question. All those in favor? Oh, do you have a question, Councilor Orlando?
Yeah, just a general question / comment before we go forward. In addition to like making sure we broadly reach people, one of the things I feel based on questions in the past on the water issue is being able to answer people's questions and publicly do that. So Q&A section or frequently asked questions section, because there's a whole variety of questions I get on it, and that can really help people get on board once they know the answer to their particular question. So
Good.
that's about it. Okay.
Good. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to correspondence. We have a letter from the Flying Club asking for representative of council and asking for Council Cherry to be appointed. So I'm going to ask that someone put that motion on the table for me. Councilor Devlin?
Move the Council Cherry be appointed to the Revelstoke Flying Club Board of Directors as a non-voting member.
Seconder for the motion, Councilor Lucille. Discussion on that motion. First of all, Council Cherry, will you accept that motion formally?
Yeah, I'm excited to.
Okay.
It'd be great.
Any comments from council? Any questions from council? Councilor Palmer?
Thank you, Mayor Souls. Through to Councilor Cherry. Thank you for stepping up for that. Can you just like super briefly, just some of the, like there's been a little bit of buzz that I'm not really aware of some of the issues that are happening there, and just a quick snapshot that might be helpful for council and the community.
A quick snapshot, the Revelstoke Flying Club has been in operation, I believe, since the 60s. Unfortunately, their membership has been aging out in type of terms. Recently, there's been a resurgence. They now have about 30 members. They've recently regained their COPA status and were able to get their historical number back. I don't have that number off the top of my head. There are 2 new operations that are using the facility. We have a flight training school that's starting to operate pending Transport Canada's approval in June, as well as Silvertip Flying. Yeah, that's kind of a brief synopsis of the Revelstoke Flying Club. I might have butchered that because I wasn't prepared. But,
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Mr. Parliament, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'll just add to Councillor Cherry. I'm also a member, and what's happening in the industry is Kelowna is basically trying to phase out a lot of VFR traffic as they expand their IFR flights. And so VFR just being visual flight. What makes Revelstoke attractive to a flight school is we have a true VFR airport. So it's visual flight only. It must be a clear day. We've got the flats to exercise emergency landings. It's an easy runway when you can see it. The challenge, of course, is when it becomes IFR, and that's instrument only in the possibility of bad weather where you're not allowed to land. So there is interest to bring flight schools, VFR flight schools, to Revelstoke because it is the perfect location for VFR training, and most importantly, there's really little traffic. That's why this flight school out of Kamloops has chosen Revelstoke, because there's very, very little traffic when you're training student pilots. You don't want to be at Vernon or Penticton or Kelowna. So we are on the radar, and that's why you're hearing more buzz of what's going down at the airport to basically promote general aviation. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Parliament.
appreciate that.
Any further comments on the motion on the table? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? No, motion's carried unanimously. Congratulations, Councilor Cherry. Be another committee.
It's not really worth it, congratulations.
Moving on to communications, 13A, a letter that we sent to Minister Kang regarding wastewater treatment plant. We spoke about our challenges and asking for more money. No one's come forward with an open purse on that. And then on item B, We wrote a letter following a meeting that Mr. Black and I had with Deputy Minister Jardine, stating what we understood in the basis of our meeting, and so that was sent off. Mr. Black, do you have anything that you would like to state or bring up regarding either of those letters or a subsequent follow-up?
Thank you, Worship. I have nothing new to report. However, we are continuing to send emails and letters to the ministries in order to keep a little bit of fire going regarding funding opportunities or phasing of them.
Good, appreciate it, and we're hoping that we'll get something positive back. Everything that we've got back now is not giving us, there's no definitive timeline or anything saying, hey, yes, we're going to help you or not help you. So we're in that continue to reach out mode. So any comments from council on either of those letters? Seeing none, we're going to move on to Social Development Committee minutes. Councillor Luciao, there is some terms of reference here. Do you want to weigh in on any of this before we put the motion on the table?
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you, Marisols. Yeah, so this came up. These haven't been updated since the committee was formed, with some changes at the staff level with Tahatia leaving, and Sheena Wells moving over to the Revelstoke Community Housing Society. That's just where this discussion came up, and we just wanted to formalize a couple things. So that was just the bulk of the meeting. Would you like me to put the recommendations on the table?
Yes, please.
So the first one, the Social Development Committee recommends to council that the terms of reference be further revised to include an additional social service sector member, specifically representing community connections, and that quorum remain at 7 members.
Okay. Seconder for the motion, please, Councillor Orlando. Any further discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion's carried. And number 2.
I move that the terms of reference, section 3, meeting procedures be amended to read, meetings will be held at 8:30 a.m. every fourth Wednesday on the months as directed by council annually.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councillor Orlando. Any further discussion on that motion? Saying none, all those in favor? Item number 3, this motion passes. Thank you. Item number 3, Councillor.
That a new food security coordinator role be established and overseen by the Revelstoke Local Food Initiative, and that the role continues to be equally funded through the City of Revelstoke Taxation and Columbia Shuswap Regional District Economic Opportunity Fund in the amount of $20,000 annually.
Seconder for that motion, please, Councillor Orlando again. Any further discussion on that motion? Saying none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. And item number 4.
That the food security strategy dated November 2022 be adopted with a portion of the land acknowledgement. Stewheaconton amended as follows. The Sinaiaks Village site of Stewheacon is located at the confluence of the Tumtum and Columbia Rivers.
Seconder for the motion, please, Councillor Devlin. Any further discussion on that motion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item D, Heritage Advisory Commission minutes. Councillor Cherry, do you want to weigh in?
Thanks, Your Worship. We saw 2 pretty large projects at the Heritage Commission that I'll briefly speak about. The first one was located at the corner of 7th and Mackenzie, at 714 Mackenzie. For those of you who know the property, it suffered a pretty drastic fire, I believe, about 10 years ago. There is a new owner who has plans to restore the property to some of its former glory. So they looked at a heritage revitalization agreement for the property, and the group was quite supportive of the changes that are being proposed.
Wonderful.
They also looked at another project, heritage alteration permit commercial development application for the rehabilitation of the existing heritage home and exterior renovations to facilitate the addition of a hotel with ground floor restaurant. And that's the old McCarty House, also known as the Copeland House, just over here at the corner of Mackenzie and 3rd. The group, to sum it up, the group was very they were very they're very hesitant about the additions and the proposed look of it. But they were very supportive of the rehabilitation of the McCarty House. Due to that meeting, I believe the application will be changing before it comes before council and potentially the Heritage Group again. But I do encourage everyone to take a look at the meeting application and see how they feel about it.
Yeah, I've had a look at it and, but nice to see the McCarty House get some updating, but the other one doesn't seem to fit into the neighborhood at all.
Yeah, and I think the other problem with that is that what they were proposing is against most of our heritage.
Fundamentals.
Yes, although they may meet the federal regulations. So I don't know if that's a use that the town would like, but excited to see how it's re-proposed in the future.
Great. Any other comments or questions, from council? Thank you. We'll move on. So Revelstoke Area Economic Development Commission meeting minutes, Councillor Orlando.
Yeah, Your Worship, thank you. Just a brief update. Thanks to Dylan Hardy, who was appointed chair of the Revelstoke Area Economic Development Commission, and to Aaron Kerwin, who was appointed vice chair at our last meeting on May 8th. We debriefed on our Downey Timber site tour, which members of the commission took. And thanks very much to Downey for taking the time, Angus Woodman to take the time to show us around and answer our questions. We're working on a resort development strategy process update. This is sort of a timeline was presented to the commission, and we reviewed that, and it was an update as well from staff. Members from some members of the commission will be attending the Creative Cities conference, and I believe it's in September, including Mr. Toma, Ms. Gibson, and Ms. Palladino. It's essentially a national organization that is its primary constituency is municipal governments, municipal governments organization that looks at creative initiatives such as arts and culture. We have been a member for quite some time, and they will be going down there to check out the scene and see what's going on. So thanks to them for attending on behalf of the city. There was also a bit of airport update, but we discussed that previously in the meeting. That's about it.
Great. Any comments or questions from council regarding those minutes? Seeing none, Ms. Delaselle, do we have any questions from the press?
We have no questions from the press, Your Worship.
All right. Okay, council, I'd like to go in camera pursuant to section 90.1 D and E of the community charter. Someone will make that motion for me. Councillor Devlin, seconded by Councillor Orlando. All in favor? Motion's carried. We'll take a 10-minute break and return in camera. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.